He's an NFL insider and 49ers reporter. Matt Barrows, he joins us. Matt, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Getting really excited for this Cowboy-Niner game. I'll start you with a softball because that's what I like to do. Shout out Jenny Finch. High-scoring game, low-scoring game. Which way do you see this one playing out on Sunday?
Yeah, I see high scoring, and of course that means that it'll be 10-6. But yeah, my thought is gorgeous day on Sunday, no rain in the forecast, and you've got these two offenses that really looked great in their opening round games, and that this is sort of a playoff thing in my mind, unless you're playing in Green Bay. Usually by this point in the season, the offenses have kind of worked things out, not making as many penalties. They kind of understand the concepts, this, that, and the other. The defenses might be worn down a little bit after playing 18 games. So, and I think that's sort of the key to this 49ers team, is that perhaps in previous iterations of the 49ers, they couldn't keep pace with Dak Prescott at full throttle, or maybe a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, those types of teams. But this has been a scoring machine with Brock Purdy. Really, the only game that they struggled to score points was that game in Seattle, where Brock Purdy had essentially his right side was impaired with that oblique injury. So he's full go now. This offense is certainly full go. Every member of that weaponry that he has is on the field. I'd be surprised if they score fewer than 30 points.
It's funny. People have said, "Oh, Purdy's got the it factor," and I'm like, "Well, what is it?" And I guess I would say it's a combination of touch and timing and accuracy. But I guess I'll throw it to you. I mean, what does he have that stands out to you, and what surprises you about his ascension? Because he's just been spectacular.
Yeah, well, the it to me is it happened in that Miami game where he just came in cold, and you thought, oh boy, 7th round pick, kind of taking over this offense. There's going to be all sorts of mistakes, and the timing's going to be off, and it was none of that. He hit the ground running. And I give full credit to him and to the 49ers defense, really, because I think it's really related to the fact that he had been functioning as the scout team quarterback. He'd been going up against Jimmy Ward and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa in practices, and to both of their credits, I mean, Purdy was pushing it in those practices, and he was kind of figuring out what the pacing is, the timing is, in order to complete a pass against a top-tier unit. And so I think that ended up being extremely beneficial to everybody because when he got into that Miami game, there was no lag, and he just kind of took off from there. I mean, it went from the Miami game to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and that was one of his best games. So every week, it's like a different challenge for him. It's going from, oh boy, his first ever start. It's against Tom Brady. Oh boy, his first ever road game. It's in Seattle. And now he's got the Cowboys coming in for his first ever divisional playoff game against really the first really good team that he's played. I think there's been a lot of mediocrity in the opponents that they've had, and this is another big test for him on Sunday.
How much of that plays into the 49ers maybe being a little bit cautious going into this game? The fact that they haven't played a bunch of world beaters. Seattle, yes, they were a playoff team, but barely. Washington and Vegas and Arizona, teams that were not in the postseason. Is there some concern that the 49ers are facing the toughest team that they've played in the better part of 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has to be a concern. Look at the last really great team that they played. It was the Chiefs in Week 7. And then it's been a bunch of teams that are either not very good or around 500. I mean, each of those teams has been flawed. And to their credit, the 49ers have dispatched most of these teams pretty thoroughly, with the exception of the Raiders. They really haven't played one of the titans of the NFL, and I think the Cowboys are in that category. I think the Eagles certainly are in that category. So if both the 49ers and the Eagles win, of course, that championship game will be in Philadelphia, and then that will be the biggest test. If they win that one, it'll probably be the Chiefs or the Bills, or maybe the Bengals. Then that will be the biggest one. But I think that's a great point. Like I said, a lot of teams are sort of in that mediocre range in the NFL, and those have been mostly the 49ers' opponents since Week 7.
One of the interesting elements of this thing is both defensive coordinators, D'Amico and Quinn, have been interviewing for multiple jobs this week. Matt, do you have any idea, and I was asked this question yesterday, what the time impact is for an interview with a prospective head coach? I mean, has D'Amico spent 2 hours on this? Has he spent 20 hours on this? I mean, what do you know?
Well, I mean, I would think that he got a lot of the heavy lifting out of the way last year when he was interviewing for the Vikings job. Remember, he pulled out of that job, but he pulled out of the second interview. So he had one. I think he knew what he was going to be asked. He had prepared last year. So I'm sure he had some of his ducks in a row then. And then, the 49ers have the benefit of having played on Saturday of last week, whereas the Cowboys played on Monday. And so the 49ers had an extra day off. So I can only imagine, and D'Amico Ryan speaks later today, but I can only imagine that he took one of those off days and did a lot of the preparation for his upcoming interviews. So he's got the Broncos tonight, and then I believe he has the Texans tomorrow. And you know what? I have no idea how long those interviews are. I would guess they're an hour, maybe 2 hours. This happens every off season, and I don't think that it's a big hindrance to his weekly preparations.
NFL Insider 49ers reporter Matt Barrows here. Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Larry in for Mark Willard. 2 of the last 3 opponents have gone over 100 yards rushing. Is it just a case that they faced good ground games, or is this run defense starting to show some slippage?
Yeah, you know what? That first half against the Seahawks was not good, and they turned things around in the second half. Obviously, the Seahawks scored 1 touchdown late against a defense that was full of backups. But I did get the sense yesterday in the locker room that the 49ers are concerned about intensity, that they went into Dallas last year, and this is Nick Bosa speaking, that they played with their hair on fire in that game. And that was a continuation of how they were playing at the end of that season. Remember, they had to basically win out in order to even make the playoffs. So they were already on a roll. And, if there's any concern, it's that they haven't quite captured that intensity level that they had going into that game into Dallas. They hit Dak Prescott 14 times in that game. That's a huge, huge number. And they did it without Bosa for the second half. So it really was sort of an all-hands-on-deck situation where everybody was stepping up, and they were getting contributions from Charles Omenihu and Jordan Willis and Kevin Givens and Azeez Al-Shaair. I mean, all these guys that are sort of in backup roles kind of stepped to the fore in that game. Bosa's point was that they need that effort in this game. They need to rattle Dak Prescott. They can't allow him to be as comfortable as he was against the Buccaneers. And so I think you're right. There's kind of a tightening that needs to happen. That's sort of the double-edged sword of kind of, wrapping up the division on December 15 and then sort of coasting into the playoffs. Whereas last year you were really kind of struggling to get into the playoffs. Yeah, you're more rested, you're more recovered. This is a much healthier team, by far healthier team, but they don't have quite the same momentum that they had at this point last season.
You know, it's interesting. The Niners, I agree. I think the Niners defensive line's got to impact this game and put pressure on Prescott. Prescott's got 15 picks in 12 games, so he will throw you one. But you like this game to be high scoring. I agree with you there. I'm a little concerned, to be honest, about Gibson, Hufanga, and Lenore, and even a little bit on Charvarius Ward after watching him the last couple of weeks. Down the field, playing with poise, with the ball in the air, especially contesting at the high point, some of these balls that Prescott throws up there. How concerned are you? You like a high-scoring game. Does that make you think that the Niners secondary is not going to be able to stand up? How concerned do you think the 49ers are about their secondary?
Look at the last 3 games. I mean, Devontae Adams goes well over 100 yards, a couple of TDs in Las Vegas. Then A.J. Green comes in and has a big, touchdown to open the game. He was close to 100 yards in that contest as well. And then DK Metcalf, another monster game last week. So that they've been, big, savvy, tall receivers have been the thorn in the 49ers side the last 3 weeks. They've got another one coming in CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I think everybody who watched that Monday night game saw Dalton Schultz have a huge game. So obviously the Cowboys found some room in that Tampa defense to really kind of hit Schultz. He was close to 100 yards in that one as well. I mean, to me that kind of shows the diversity of the Cowboys' attack. I mean, you had remember the Raiders game, they were hitting Darren Waller, they had Josh Jacobs at running back, they had Devontae Adams at wide receiver. All 3 phases were clicking against the 49ers, and the Cowboys absolutely have that potential. Got 2 really good running backs. They've got Schultz, who's probably the kind of unsung member of that offense, and then they've got the CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup on the outside. So there's a lot of things to worry about with that Cowboys offense. We haven't even talked about Dak Prescott running the ball.
Yeah.
So that's a concern. The 49ers will go into this game saying, okay, if we take away the run, then everything will kind of fall into place. So to me, that's the key. The Seahawks were able to establish the run early. They attempted 20 runs in the first half on Saturday. The 49ers have to kind of discourage that level of running early on, I think, in order to really kind of take control defensively.
It's going to be fascinating to see the push-pull from both sides of the ball. Matt Barrows, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the game Sunday. We'll probably see you down there.
All right, I'll look forward to it. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Matty.
Yeah.